Good morning, Kuhner country. Okay, ho, 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 ho. You've been hearing sounds of explosions across the entire country over the last 24 hours. No, that's not Iran retaliating for what we are doing to them in the Strait of Hormuz. Those are liberal heads exploding everywhere in the wake of yesterday's massive decision by the Supreme Court. And let me tell you right now, if Republicans can just do the bare minimum going into the midterms in 2026, the High Court may have just saved their majority and blocked a blue wave. And so, in a massive decision regarding, technically it was about Louisiana's redistricting map, but it's going to have massive consequences for the entire country. The Supreme Court ruled 6-3, right down ideological lines, John Roberts and the 5 conservatives versus Sonia Sotomayor, Elena Kagan, Ketanji Brown Jackson, the leftists on the court. 6-3, that drawing congressional districts based on race under the Voting Rights Act is illegal and unconstitutional. And in particular, they looked at a case regarding Louisiana in which the legislature and then several courts ruled that they had to create a majority-minority district in Louisiana. And the High Court looked at that and said, you cannot create district maps, you cannot draw congressional districts based on race. You can't authorize it, you can't compel it, you can't do it. It is illegal and contrary to the spirit of the Voting Rights Act and of the Constitution itself. And so, in plain English, what this means is that many of these so-called majority-minority districts that have been gerrymandered over the last 30 to 40 years, whether it be across the South, whether it be in Texas, in Florida, in Mississippi, in Alabama, in Missouri, even in Ohio, other states that have given Democrats an extra 15 to 20 seats in Congress are now going to be abolished. So, in plain English, the redistricting lines are going to be changed. Congressional maps are going to be redrawn. Most of these majority-minority districts are now going to be abolished. And the Republicans are now poised to pick up a minimum of 12 seats in the upcoming midterm elections and maybe as many as 19 or 20 seats. In other words, it looks like there will be no blue wave. In fact, again, it's hard to predict the future, but you can tell by the Democrats' reaction. To say they have gone berserk is the understatement of the century. Obama excoriated the decision. Chuck Schumer, I thought, lost his mind yesterday. Hakeem Jeffries is screaming racism, discrimination, Jim Crow. That's all he was yelling yesterday. The media is completely shell-shocked. And so, what's now going to happen, based on this decision and several other Supreme Court decisions over the last couple of weeks, is now you are going to see some of these Democrat congressional districts, after now the congressional maps are going to be redrawn in special sessions of the state legislatures. Florida, for example, just did it yesterday. They have now redrawn their congressional map, and now it will add potentially 4 extra Republican seats at the cost of the Democrats. Texas is going to add 4, maybe even 6 seats. And on it's going to go. That if you look at now the way these maps are being redrawn, and now the Democrats can't stop it, they can't sue it, they can't use lawfare to prevent it, because the Supreme Court now has said loudly and clearly, you can gerrymander, you can redraw maps based on partisan advantage, as Samuel Alito said, but you cannot use race to redistrict these congressional maps and create these sort of majority-minority congressional districts. And so with this now taking place, the Democrats are going to lose potentially 12, 15, 20 seats. That's the ball game. That's the ball game. It's going to be almost impossible for the Democrats to win the midterms. And so with that, they see their power starting to slip away. And that's why they passed this ridiculous redistricting map in California under Gavin Newsom, where they're going to pick up about, I think, 4 seats there or 5 seats there. And then, of course, what happened in Virginia last week, which was a constitutional travesty. In Virginia, you have a bipartisan commission that sets the map, the congressional district lines. Right now, it is 6. They have 11 seats in Congress. 6 seats are Democrats. 5 seats are Republicans. This new congressional map would give the Democrats 10 seats and the Republicans only 1. So a 4-seat pickup for the Democrats. The only problem is they literally abused the Constitution in order to get to this new map. It is unconstitutional. It is illegal. The referendum that they held on it was unconstitutional and illegal. And it looks now like the Virginia Supreme Court is likely going to strike down this new congressional map. So the 4 seats that the Democrats were hoping to pick up looks like it may not materialize. So we are now in a redistricting war. And in this redistricting war, it is clear that the Democrats are going to lose. And the days of take Clyburn, Congressman James Clyburn from South Carolina, he's from the 6th congressional district in that state. That is a racially gerrymandered state. It was created to have majority minorities. In other words, to pack in African Americans into this district so they can elect this Democrat hack, Clyburn, who's been there for, almost 40 years. Those days are coming to an end. And so the days of the likes of Clyburn or many members of the Congressional Black Caucus or many members of the Hispanic Caucus, in which they come from these majority-minority congressional districts, because that's how they were constructed and gerrymandered, that is going to be eventually coming to an end. Many of them are going to be eliminated in the next couple of months. Now you know why the Democrats are going nuts. Because their expected blue wave, where they were vowing to take back the House, maybe even the Senate, now looks more unlikely than ever. And what you're going to see is a continuing shift in the balance of power, in which you're going to see Republicans get more seats and more seats. Already Mississippi now is setting up a special session to end these majority-minority districts. Alabama now is following suit. You have North Carolina, you have Missouri, you have South Carolina. This is going to lead to many more seats for Republicans. All they have to do is wage a half-decent campaign in the midterms and actually, pass something and have, semi-decent governance, give Republican voters an incentive to go out to vote. And it's almost impossible for the Democrats to win this November. And so this racial gerrymandering that you have seen the Democrats do over and over again, creating these artificial districts based simply on race, that now has been eliminated or at least declared illegal and unconstitutional. And now it looks like they're going to pay the price at the polls. Okay, my friends, the best way to listen to the Kuhner Report is on the iHeartRadio app. And as you now know, it's been a couple of weeks, we have launched something brand new. Kuhner's Talk Back Tit for Tat. Just look for the red microphone in the upper right corner of the app and leave a message for the Kuhner Man, Sandy, Mike. Agree, disagree, respond, react. Honestly, anything goes. Leave your talkbacks anytime during the week. And every Monday, as we've been doing it now, I think for 3 weeks now, in the final segment every Monday, we're going to play the best ones on the air. So download the iHeart app, hit that red mic, and join Kuhner's Talkback Tit for Tat, baby. Okay, so yesterday's ruling cannot be understated. Cannot be overstated. Just the massive impact it's going to have in the 2026 midterms and definitely the 2028 elections. This is going to play out. The ripple effects of this are going to be going on for a couple of years. And in a nutshell, the Voting Rights Act was passed in 1965. And it was part of the final piece of the civil rights legislation package to overturn Jim Crow and segregation in the South. And what the Voting Rights Act was supposed to do, and it's in theory, it's a beautiful idea, which is to ban discrimination in voting. And in particular, to ban or prevent blacks from being barred from being able to vote. In the South, there were all kinds of obstacles put in the way deliberately to prevent blacks from being able to vote. And the Voting Rights Act, Section 2, that's the heart of the Voting Rights Act, says, no, you can't do that. You have to do everything possible to give African Americans the same opportunity and the same rights to vote as everybody else. Well, beginning with that, in 1965, the Democrats, as they do with everything, abused it. And they used Section 2 to then begin to draw congressional maps for each state using race. As Alito said yesterday, the point of the Voting Rights Act is that race should not be considered when you go and vote or denying people the right to vote. Race should have nothing to do with voting. Well, what they did was they turned that on its head. And so what happened was, in plain English, Democrats were allowed to gerrymander and Republicans were not allowed to gerrymander. And so Democrats, and they did this in state after state after state, created these phony artificial districts using race in order to maximize Democrat voting power, to give them as much of an advantage so they can carve out as many quote-unquote safe Democrat seats. And this over time gave them a disproportionate amount of representation in Congress. Well, yesterday, essentially what the Supreme Court said is, you cannot use race as a basis to create any congressional districts. So all of these districts that you see in California, that you see in across the South, that you see in New York, where they're playing with populations and with lines of congressional districts in order to ensure that Democrats will win that district by making sure there's a certain number of minorities that are included in those districts. So a majority black district, a majority Latino district, a majority Asian district. Those now have been declared by the Supreme Court illegal and unconstitutional. So they can no longer racially gerrymander. And if they can't racially gerrymander, they've got a big problem. Because they got a lot of seats, about 24 of them, in Congress through this very process of racial gerrymandering. And so now you're going to see all of these state legislatures, especially controlled by Republicans, wipe out these so-called majority-minority congressional districts. And you're going to have normal congressional districts where you're not just trying to pack in a certain racial group to get the political outcome that you want. And so potentially, it depends how people vote, obviously, but we're looking at potentially 12 to 20, some say maybe even as many as 25 extra seats, pickups, wins for Republicans in this midterm election and going into 2028. Now, that's the ball game. I'm telling you, that's the ball game. It's going to be very difficult, almost impossible, for the Democrats to win at that many seats. 617-266-6868 is the number. Look, honestly, as many of you are texting the Kuhner man and emailing me and messaging me, if this doesn't get MAGA fired up for the midterms, honestly, I don't know what will. I mean, this couldn't have come at a more opportune, more needed moment right now. And you can tell by the Democrat reaction. I mean, it's like a ton of bricks fell on their head. I mean, they look crushed. Well, simultaneously crushed and absolutely enraged. Just enraged. Because now they know the gig is up. They have been essentially creating fake, artificial congressional districts by using race illegally for decades and decades and decades. And basically the Supreme Court finally called them out and said, no, that's not what the original intent of the Voting Rights Act was, and it's certainly not the intent of the Constitution. You cannot use race as a basis to create congressional districts or redistrict congressional maps. You can't. And you certainly can't force states, and that's what they were doing, to have to come up with majority-minority districts, at least 1 or 2 or 3 per every state. That's illegal, unconstitutional, contrary to the very heart and spirit of the Constitution. And that's why you're going to see many of these majority-minority districts, these are Democrat districts, obviously, they are going to fall like a house of cards. Now, notice the fundamental contradiction with the Democrats and the entire media class who are screaming bloody murder. Because now, all of a sudden, they don't like gerrymandering. See, now that Republicans are getting in the game and they're finally fighting back, suddenly now, oh, no, hey, whoa, how dare you gerrymander? Well, whoa. When California under Newsom just gerrymandered 4 extra seats, no problem. When Virginia took one of the fairest congressional maps in the country, 6 Democrats, 5 Republicans, and abused the Constitution in order to create this new map, which I'm telling you is illegal, and the Supreme Court will shoot it down, the Virginia Supreme Court, and gerrymandered 4 extra seats for them. No problem. No problem. So you see, Democrats have been gerrymandering and adding extra Democrat seats going back 40, 50 years. No problemo, baby. But when the Republicans start to do it, as they did in Florida yesterday, with a new map passed in the House, going into the Senate, that's going to add 4 extra Republican seats. Texas, 6 extra Republican seats. You wait till North Carolina, South Carolina, Mississippi, Alabama, Missouri, Ohio. You watch when they start getting involved as well. Suddenly, the sky, if you read Elena Kagan's dissent, honest to God, you'd think the sky is falling. This is the end of the Voting Rights Act. We're going to return to Jim Crow. No. No one's going to deny African Americans the right to vote. Are you crazy? No one's going to reinstitute the poll tax. Are you crazy? No one's going to physically prevent African Americans from voting. In fact, to me, one of the brilliant points made by Justice Samuel Alito, and he basically wrote the majority opinion. Alito made the point, if you look at the last 5 presidential elections, African Americans vote more than whites in the last 5 presidential elections. African Americans either vote at the exact same rate as the white population, and in 2 out of the 5, they actually voted in greater numbers per proportion, per population. They voted in greater numbers than the white population. And by the way, that includes in Louisiana, because the case centered around a map, congressional map in Louisiana. So the point that Alito made was, you're looking at the success of the Voting Rights Act. Blacks now not only have unfettered access to vote, they now vote at rates higher than whites. Higher than whites. So, contrary to them being held back or the vote being suppressed, they actually are the most active voters in the country as a voting bloc. So, the Voting Rights Act, in its mission, has succeeded. So, this doesn't gut the Voting Rights Act, as the media is claiming, and the Democrats are claiming, and the 3 liberal justices were claiming. What they're saying is, you can't use race to gerrymander safe districts for Democrats. The Voting Rights Act wasn't intended to maximize Democratic voting power. And to show you how bad the Democrats have abused gerrymandering. And notice, this they don't complain about. Okay? Now, get ready for this. Get ready for this. Now, those of us in Massachusetts, we already know the score. We know how bad it is. So, in the last election, 36% of 36% of the popular voters, 36% of voters in Massachusetts voted Republican. Tell me, in our congressional delegation, how many seats do the Republicans have? 0. 0. So, 36% voted Republican. And they don't get even 1 congressional representative? 1? Just 1? So that means 36% of voters in Massachusetts have literally no voice in Congress. Okay? But hold on. Whoa. It's not just with Massachusetts. In Connecticut, 42% of voters vote Republican. 42. You know how many seats in Congress? 0. In Maine, 46% vote Republican. 46. You know how many seats? 0. In New Mexico, 46% vote Republican. You know how many seats they have in Congress? 0. New Hampshire, just north of us, 48% vote Republican. Okay, we're, 48. I mean, we're almost at 50. You know how many seats? 0. Rhode Island, 42% vote Republican. You know how many seats? 0. Vermont, 32% vote Republican. You know how many seats? 0. Hawaii, 38% vote Republican. You know how many seats? 0. Delaware, 42% vote Republican. You know how many seats? 0. So you see, it's only bad when Republicans do it. Because when Democrats gerrymander and gerrymander and gerrymander to the point that you have states in New England, here, take New Hampshire as the most obvious example, where almost 50%, 48% vote Republican on a consistent basis. And they don't even get one seat. So it's taxation without representation. These are all taxpayers. A hell of a lot more than the Democrats, I'll tell you this. So hardworking, law-abiding, patriotic, tax-paying Americans in all of these blue states that I just listed, and not one seat in Congress. And the Democrats now want to complain? A couple lines are open if you want to jump on. Okay, this is from 603. You can text the Kuhner man, 70470, 70470. And 603 makes an absolutely outstanding point. Jeff, I can only compare the ruling that has just transpired from the Supreme Court and the subsequent reaction by the Democrats to the classic scene we've all watched in the old Western movies. A group of men are sitting around a table having a game of high-stakes poker when suddenly one of the men reaches across the table, grabs the other man's left arm, pulls his sleeve up, and exposes the ace card hidden up his sleeve. The Supreme Court has just exposed and taken away the Democrats' ace up their sleeve. Hopefully this means game over. I love it. I love the analogy. That's essentially what they've done. No, you're not going to keep rigging it using race. No, you're not going to keep creating these fake, unconstitutional majority-minority districts. No, you're not going to do it anymore. And now the Democrats don't know what to do. Because if they don't rig elections, they can't win. They can't win on their ideas. They can't win on their program. They can't win on their policies. And so they have to resort to these kinds of shenanigans. And now a major ace up their sleeve has been taken away. And, you know, if people vote the way they normally vote, and they should vote in the upcoming midterm elections, then all this talk of a massive blue wave and of Democrats, you know, sweeping back to power in the House and in the Senate, well, guess what? It's going to become next to impossible for them to do it. And that's why now, I mean, they want to hang those 6 Supreme Court justices. I mean, they're going nuts. They're going absolutely they're apoplectic. Now, I want to read to you another text because it captures the corruption that you've been seeing in these blue states and in these Democrat states. And here in Massachusetts, I gave the numbers, 36% consistently vote Republican. Okay, that's based off of the last election. It's really more like 40. And no seats in Congress. Zero. Not even one. So I don't have a voice. Many of you don't have a voice. It's taxation without representation. And just to show you how they gerrymander this state to guarantee that there's not even one Republican member of Congress, that every congressional seat is won by Democrats. This is from 781. Jeff, to your point, the way Steve Lynch, Congressman Steve Lynch, wins in Massachusetts is because his district snakes and slithers through black and brown neighborhoods from South Boston all the way to Brockton down toward Fall River. I mean, that's look at these congressional districts. Here, take Steve Lynch's district as an example. Okay? I mean, you look at it, it looks deformed. No, really, it's like you're like this. Like, I mean, it's like super thin, super thin, super thin, and it's just going for miles and miles and miles. And then they get a big chunk, and then again, a little super thin, and it goes in through a couple of neighborhoods, and like, it's the craziest district you've ever seen in your life. And that's because they want to make sure he gets enough. Okay, let's make sure he put it through some of these predominantly black neighborhoods. Okay. Oh, got a lot of Latinos, a lot of illegals in that one. Okay, let's get 6 or 8 towns in there. Yeah, I mean, and suddenly Shazam. You know, Stevie Lynch is in the safest seat in the country. There's no way you can challenge Steve Lynch. Now, again, I live in a different district, okay, than the one that Steve Lynch. But Sandy lives in Brookline. For those of you listening across the country, Brookline is a stone's throw from Boston. I mean, I'm exaggerating, but it's very close to Boston. I live practically on the border with Rhode Island. I'm 10 minutes from the Rhode Island border. I'm like southern Massachusetts. I'm a stone's throw away from Gillette Stadium. She's in my district, or I'm in her district, however you want to phrase. We have the same member of Congress. If I got into my car from my home to drive to Sandy's home, it takes me a full hour. No traffic. If there's no traffic, a full hour. And we're in the same district. And that's to guarantee that they get enough, because my area's got some conservatives and Republicans. So they want to make sure that they chop up the Republican conservative vote and divvy it up among different districts so that the Democrats can make sure that the outcome is they win every single seat and you will never get a Republican or conservative district. So you have this absurdity that Sandy in Brookline, an hour away by car, lives practically, close to downtown Boston, and the Kuhner man, who's 5 miles away from Rhode Island, in the most southern part of the state, and we're in the same district with the same member of Congress. So that's the absurd links that the Democrats will go to guarantee political power. And when Republicans say, well, okay, what's sauce for the goose is sauce for the gander. All right. Hey, we didn't make up the rules. You did. Well, you know what? We're going to do a little gerrymandering of our own. You can't do this. This is undemocratic. You're gutting the Voting Rights Act. This is unconstitutional. So when you do it, it's okay. When the Republicans fight back, that's no good. Right. The Supreme Court delivered the Democrats a massive body blow yesterday. And I don't see how a Democrat, I mean, anything's possible. But for them now to have to pick up an extra 12 to 20 seats in order to win back the majority, I can see why they're crying. Because it's going to be a tough, long, hard road. 617-266-6868. Okay, I want to ask you, the great audience of Kuhner Country, is it fair that 36% of voters in Massachusetts are Republicans? Often it's 40%, yet we don't have one member of Congress. Is it fair in New Hampshire, 48% of voters? And, for example, they have a Republican governor. Sometimes it's even 50 plus 1. But regularly, 48% of voters vote Republican, and they don't have a single seat. Connecticut, 42% vote Republican, and they have 0 congressional representation. Is that fair? And what can we do to change it? And is this really a taxation without representation? I say it is. What say you? 617-266-6868 is the number. And I want to ask all of you, how do you feel about the Supreme Court decision? Was it the right decision? Should race be used when they create these new maps, these congressional districts? I say absolutely not, but I want to hear from you. And do you now feel that the Republicans have a chance, a real chance, to hold on to their majorities in the House and in the Senate? Did the Supreme Court just ride to Trump's rescue and the GOP's rescue? 617-266-6868. Ken in New Hampshire. Thanks for holding, Ken, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff.
Ken,
winning,
how are you,
winning,
my friend?
Winning, 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 winning. 7 winnings. You hear me? Not just 3, 7.
No, that was a doozy yesterday. Ken, I gotta tell you, I thought they were going to shoot themselves on CNN. Oh, Hakeem Jeffries, I don't know if you saw him. I'm going to play a cut. Oh, he's losing his mind. But anyway, Ken, go ahead, my friend.
I'm going to give you a call that'll make your head spin a little bit. Because, I love what happened yesterday. And I love our Constitution set up as it is that leaves it to the states. So I don't care if you're on the left or you're on the right. Stop complaining about gerrymandering. You got to go out with a winning attitude and just flat out win. Now, I know it's a really tall order in New England. I get it. Yeah, they're all up. It's like, geez, they get everything. But you know what? We would have to do a wild gerrymandering to get 1 seat in Massachusetts. Let's be serious. You got to start winning at the local level, folks. So let me give you an idea. How do you win at the local level? We say, we work so much. We don't have time to do all the politics. All the lawyers and the professional lefties, they dominate, and the culture's as it is. Yeah, it's all that true. But, things have changed, haven't they? This excuse that we don't have time to go to the local education meetings. That's bogus. There's plenty of us that work remote. Make the time. You care about your kids. So, it's an uphill battle in New England. It's not as hard in New Hampshire. And, I'm not complaining about gerrymandering. I'm not complaining about gerrymandering. The bottom line is fight, 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 win, win, win. Start with the governorship this year. And you know what? If you spend 1 or 2 days every week, Jeff, talking about Mike Minogue, maybe that'll make a big difference to all the people listening from Massachusetts who have kids and grandkids, which includes me with the grandkids. That's my daughter's family. I really care deeply. My oldest grandson has just 17 months before he starts getting indoctrinated. I don't like that. You got to start handling that locally. So where do we start? You get Minogue to get within at least 10 points. Because the pattern in Massachusetts is they're lazy voters. It's like, oh, an incumbent's in. Yeah, we'll vote for the incumbent. And they do it either way, Democrats or Republicans, when you're talking about governorship. But as much as we wish Charlie was better, and there's a lot of things to complain about Charlie Baker, compared to what you got now. So, Minogue, I think, is way better than Charlie. But if he follows the path of loses by a little bit and comes back the next time, I'm not so sure Murray's going to keep running. And you know what? I think Minogue's going to win one way or another, whether it's 26 or 30. That's your mission. And fight it. Don't complain about gerrymandering. It's about winning. The man in the White House is winning over and over and over again. And it's wonderful what's going on in Iran. You wait till that IRGC falls apart. But that's a side issue, I know. Today's is the wonderful victory that we had yesterday.
Oh, I agree, Ken. Look, I think it's a game changer. I think there's no question it's a game changer. And you know it is by the reaction of the Democrats. And so you can see now they see power slipping away again. They thought they had Trump on the ropes. They thought there was going to be a big blue wave coming in November. And now, and you know, and as Larry messaged me, they gerrymandered the hell, the Democrats. They so gerrymandered the hell out of every state they controlled. There's no wiggle room. Like, there's nothing. They can't add another seat. They just can't. They maxed it out. They squeezed it and squeezed it and squeezed it and squeezed it down to the last drop. And the Republicans didn't, because they were always playing defense, and they were prevented by this false reading of the Voting Rights Act, whereby they say, oh, no, you have to have all these majority-minority districts. You have to have them whether you like it or not. Well, now the Supreme Court has blown that apart. And that's now, you watch. Texas is going to go, they're going to add seats. Florida now is in the process of adding seats. You're going to see other states. I know Mississippi's calling a special session. I believe it's either today or tomorrow. I mean, they're moving on this super fast. So you are going to see 6 seats here, 4 seats there, 2 seats there. And before you know it, the Democrats are going to have no chance of winning back the House. So they only have themselves to blame. You know, you live by the sword, you die by the sword. Well, you live by the gerrymander, you die by the gerrymander. And that's exactly what's happened to the Democrats. Now, I do want to say this about Massachusetts. They had their convention. The Republicans had their convention. Keneally did not make the 15% threshold. So now it is down to 2 candidates. There's going to be 2 on the ballot for the primary in September. I don't care who you vote for. I'm not going to pick one or the other. Whoever the voters pick, I will back all the way against Maura Healey. To me, both of them, either of them, are infinitely better than Maura Healey. And I am not going to do to either of these 2 Republican candidates what the Chris Doty forces did to Jeff Deal in the last election against Maura Healey, which is stab him in the back, divide the Republican conservative vote, and allow Maura Healey to win. I am not going to do what those Judases did to Deal. I'm not, because I'm not a Judas. I'm not for sale like they are. Now, that being said, I'm going to tell you right now, this should be the most winnable election for the Mass GOP. Here, as I said on X last night, and I don't want to get too sidetracked with local Massachusetts politics, but this is how bad it is. a bombshell new report from the Pioneer Institute. Under Maura Healey, under Democrat misrule, because of the crushing high taxes, the stifling regulation, the insane anti-business, anti-entrepreneur policies, Massachusetts, which used to be the second best place to start a business, 10 years ago, literally 10 years ago, this was the second best state in America to start a business or a company. I mean, just think about it objectively. World-class universities, some of the best research and development in the country, a highly trained, highly skilled workforce, a strong financial sector that can bring in a lot of capital. So you want to start up a business or expand a business. I mean, we had it all. Now we are dead last. We are 50th of 50. We're in last place under Maura Healey. Businesses, entrepreneurs, companies are, by the way, worse than New York, worse than California. Okay, that's how bad it is. They're fleeing. Businesses, companies, investors are fleeing in record numbers to Texas, Florida, North Carolina, South Carolina. She's destroying the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Never mind turning it into a sanctuary state. Never mind squandering billions and billions and billions on illegals. Putting them up in taxpayer-funded and paid apartments, free furniture, free health care, free food, free computers. I mean, literally everything free. And we don't have enough money for schools. We don't have enough money for roads. We don't have enough money for hospitals. We're chronically underfunded. And we've got one of the highest now poverty rates in the country because so much of our money is going to illegals. This should be a slam dunk election for Republicans. If you can't beat Maura Healey, then there's no point in having a Republican Party. And yet they ran one of the most disorganized, sloppy conventions I've ever seen in my life. Everybody that attended, I got email after email, text after text saying, Jeff, this is such a colossal screw up. How do you do this? We should be coming out of here with energy, fire, momentum, passion. Instead, everybody's demoralized. And I'll tell you why. It's because of the Mass GOP chair, Amy Carnevale. She screwed up that convention. She has run the party into the ground. Okay, the Supreme Court delivers a hammer blow to the Democrats and their chances to win the 2026 midterms. Basically, they've said racial gerrymandering is illegal and unconstitutional. So all of these congressional districts that the Democrats have carved out over the last 30, 40, 50 years, whereby they are either majority African American, majority Latino, majority Asian, done to create safe seats for Democrats. Almost seats that, they win by 85, 90, 95% of the vote. Those are illegal and they can and will be abolished. And so what this means is that there are going to be new congressional maps being drawn up as we speak. And Republicans now are poised to pick up minimum a dozen seats, maybe as many as 20 or 25 seats. It is going to be electorally and politically a disaster for the Democrats. And this is why they are having the mother of all meltdowns. They're now screaming and yelling that the Voting Rights Act is over, that this is the return of Jim Crow, of segregation, that you're going to see blacks being denied the right to vote in the South or in Texas or in Florida, which of course is 1,000% garbage. It is false. It is simply the fact that now Republicans can gerrymander the way Democrats have been gerrymandering for decades. And the problem is, as I explained before the break, is that the Democrats have gerrymandered every state they possibly can to the max. There's no more wiggle room. Republicans are just starting. And that's going to be the ball game. Now, again, you don't know how things are going to turn out in 3, 4, 5 months. But if, you look at all the polling, it's basically 50-50 for the congressional races in November. For the Democrats to even have a chance at winning back the House, they need at least +5, +6, +7, +8. They're nowhere near that. And now with this Supreme Court ruling, the House is going to stay Republican, knock on wood, and the Senate will stay Republican, knock on wood. And it's not because I'm a big fan of what the Republicans have done in Congress. It's that I don't want the communist Democrats to sweep back into power. And so you never want to be overconfident, but if you want to know why you're waking up this morning to the mother of all tantrums, to Democrats, the media, liberals losing their minds over this Louisiana Supreme Court decision, now you know why. 617-266-6868. Pete in New Hampshire. Thanks for holding, Pete, and welcome.
Hi, Jeff. Good morning.
Hi, Pete.
So, one of the problems we have here in New Hampshire, I was a state rep. My last term was 20 to 22, and we did redistrict. We did, having the Republican majority, we did do a redistricting, and it was not super gerrymandered. It was fair, and it made, right now, both districts are hard for Republicans to win. Under the redistricting that we did, would have made Congressional District 1 more winnable for Republicans. Governor Sununu vetoed it. Governor Ayotte refuses to bring it up. I've called her office. Other people have been calling. And part of the problem is Republicans, sometimes they swear they don't want to win. This isn't even, it's a very fair redistricting that would help us pick up a seat. I mean, right now we have the governor, we have 4 of the 5 executive council seats, we have a supermajority in the state Senate, and a pretty good majority in the New Hampshire House, and we haven't been able to get this done. And one of my other concerns is that blue states like California, Massachusetts, I can see them just ignoring the Supreme Court ruling or dragging their feet, because that's the way they work. And so that's my concern, is they just drag their feet and not get it done in time. And then, what kind of enforcement action will happen to force them to do it. So, I'm cautiously optimistic, but I don't trust the other side.
Well, Pete, if you can just hang on, and I want to come back to you after the break, and I want to ask you the $64,000 question. Why did Sununu block the better plan? Why won't Kelly Ayotte? She's supposed to be a Republican in theory. Why won't she, at least raise the issue? Why don't they want the Republicans to gain at least 1 seat in Congress? I mean, you would figure the Republicans would want Republicans to win. Okay, let's go right back to Pete in New Hampshire. Pete is a former Republican member of the state legislature up there. He's a Republican activist. And he says, look, we had a map that would have given Republicans at least a real shot in one of the 2 congressional districts. And it was shot down by then Rhino Governor John Sununu. And now you have the current Republican governor, Kelly Ayotte, and she's not even interested in even taking it up, even discussing the issue. And so my question to Pete was, why are Republicans like Sununu and Ayotte so determined to sabotage fellow Republicans? Don't they want to win? Don't they want to have Republicans have more representation in Congress? And Pete, I'm just curious, what's your theory? Why do you think these rhinos constantly sabotage fellow Republicans? What's in it for them?
Part of it, or at least they would say this, is New Hampshire is one of the few states where the governor is up for re-election every 2 years. Every elected seat at the state level is every 2 years. So they're constantly trying to campaign to get reelected. In New Hampshire, we do have a large block of undeclared voters. So I think their attitude is they don't want to offend the undeclareds. They don't want to. They think they'll get some of the Democrat voters to vote for them. But the reality is, and I think you've said it before, and I've said it before, that anytime a Democrat has the choice to vote for a Democrat or a Democrat, they'll always vote for the real Democrat. They're kidding themselves on that. But I don't know. Sununu actually made it sport to go after conservative Republicans in the legislature when he was, particularly his last term. But it makes no sense. I would encourage voters in the state to contact the governor's office and in big numbers and respectfully request that she reconsider this, because it's a no-brainer. It's not an outrageous redistricting. It's a fair one, and it would give us a shot to pick up one of those seats.
I'm with you, Pete. I'm with you all the way, and thank you for your call. A lot of common sense. A lot of common sense in that call. 617-266-6868. Pete also mentioned, just very quickly, he said, well, maybe California, Massachusetts, they're not going to want to comply with this latest Supreme Court ruling. Okay, true. You're right. Yeah, they're probably going to drag their feet. But this is why the Democrats are in such panic. Okay, let's say Massachusetts doesn't comply. Big deal. I mean, it's bad for us as conservatives, obviously, that live in the state and pay taxes. It's outrageous, actually. But they've already gerrymandered the state to such an extent, they can't pick up an extra Democrat seat because there are 0 Republican seats. In other words, as Larry in Arkansas put it, there's no more wiggle room for them. Ditto for California. They just passed a ridiculous redistricting. And, by the way, praised by the media, praised by the Democrats. So, what are you going to take? Blood from a stone? So they can't add extra seats even if they wanted to add extra seats, because they've gerrymandered these, both California and Massachusetts to the hilt. There's no more room to grow. There's no more seats to add. So, no, what they're panicking about, it's fertile ground now. And I want to take some more calls, but, Hakeem Jeffries is dropping F-bombs on Florida, saying, don't you dare put out a new congressional map for the 2026 midterms. And he's threatening Ron DeSantis, the governor, if they do it. And DeSantis essentially laughed in his face. And now they're going to get 4 extra Republican seats. 4. Just from Florida alone. Texas, 6. And there's many other states that haven't even started to go into a special session to create a new redistricting map. So you can see why the Democrats are in full panic mode. They're going down. They started a gerrymandering war that they can't win. And they rigged the game because for decades they were gerrymandering and then blocking Republicans from countering them on the basis of, well, no, you have to have congressional districts based on racial lines. You have to have, every state's got to come up with all these majority-minority districts. So that tied the Republicans' hands. Now their hands are no longer tied. They're untied. And the Democrats can't grow. They've maxed out. But the Republicans, you watch. When I say a dozen extra seats, I'm being super conservative. You're looking at probably 20 to 24, 25 seats. Bye-bye when it comes to the midterms, unless there's a collapse in voter turnout for Republicans. That's the only thing now. So Trump's got to end this war with Iran fairly quickly. Prices have to start coming down. Gas prices have to start coming back down. And if he can do that, I think he's going to be in very strong shape going into November. 617-266-6868. Agree, disagree. George in New Hampshire. Thanks for holding, George, and welcome.
Hello.
Hi, George. You're on the air. Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Go ahead, George.
Hello.
George, you're on the air. Okay, I think we lost George. All right, let's go. Who do I want to go to next? Maestro Mike. Mel in Saratoga. Mel, it's nice to hear from you. I haven't heard from you in a while, my friend.
Yes, Jeff. I've been very busy. But first of all, before I start, hey, Mike, it's the 1 horse and the 11 horse tomorrow in the Kentucky Derby 12th race. It's Fred Bolt. Riley Mott's horse, Todd Fletcher's horse in the 1 hole, Renegade. Use those horses in an exacta. Okay, now Jeff, the Democrats, I think their ace in the hole will be Dominion voting machines. Because, no one's really talking about, election integrity anymore, and it seems like it's went to the wayside. So I think with that, we all might better, just be careful because, they got the voting machines. They did it before. What's going to stop them now? And then, those voting machines, I thought they were made out of the country. Communist China, the CCP over there, if I'm not mistaken, or down in Venezuela, one of these offshore countries. But I think that might be their ace in the hole to steal one again. Keep stealing. They got the voting machines, yeah. So that's something that we have to watch.
Oh yeah, well, voter fraud. You're completely right, Mel. We have to be eternally vigilant. You're completely right. And look, there is some. I hate to say this because it's such good news yesterday, and you don't get good news that much anymore. But we do have some bad news. And the bad news, and I was going to discuss it later, but let me just, since you talked about it, you open the door, Mel, so let me walk on through. John Thune has really stabbed us in the back. John Thune has now told House Republicans there's going to be no vote on the SAVE Act, on the Save America Act, that he's going to drop it. He says there's no votes for it. He doesn't want to bust the filibuster or break the filibuster. And so we will not have an election integrity law going into the 2026 midterm elections. And they had a big caucus, House Republicans, Senate Republicans. They met, the two of them, two branches. And Thune told everybody assembled, this is according to Congresswoman Anna Paulina Luna, and reinforced by Congressman Tim Burchett, who said, no, she's telling the truth. I was there. Thune told both Senate and House Republicans, I'm dropping the Save America Act. There will be no vote. So he screwed us. The one bill that would have prevented or gone very far to prevent voter fraud, he's not willing to waste political capital to get it through. And so that means the Democrats have a chance to steal the elections in November. All they had to do was pass the Save America Act. And it would have been very difficult, almost impossible for them to steal in November. But now John Thune, I don't know how much they paid him. I don't know what they have on him. But John Thune now has, you want to talk about the ultimate Judas. He now has stabbed us, what, in the back, right in the chest. So you're right, Mel. Voter fraud is going to be a very real concern going into November. Mel, final word to you.
Well, Jeff, it's up to President Trump to get this guy removed. I don't know why Mike, Minimal Mike, he's awful quiet too in this regard about Thune. Why isn't he speaking up to get rid of this guy? I got a feeling these guys are the two wings of the same bird. Thune and Minimal Mike, so he's not one of those to be trusted either. So, but Jeff, that's what I wanted to express.
As always, wise words from you, Mel. Cautionary words and wise words. No, look, that's the problem now. The problem is that, MAGA wants to fight. Okay, Politico is just ran a story saying that New Hampshire Governor Kelly Ayotte, Republican, Rhino really, she's a Rhino Republican, but anyway, has an R next to her name, that she has now ruled out redistricting for New Hampshire. So she says Ron DeSantis may do it, Texas may do it, Missouri may do it, Tennessee may do it, Mississippi may do it, other states may do it, Ohio, but no, New Hampshire is not going to redistrict. I mean, why should 48 to 50% of Republicans actually have a shot at having a congressional seat in New Hampshire? I mean, why would Kelly, of course I'm being sarcastic as I'm saying this, why would Kelly Ayotte want to help fellow Republicans? I mean, why would she? So if you want to know why Republicans lose, it's incredible. They have this unique knack and talent for snatching defeat from the jaws of victory. But anyway, it is what it is. CJT in Milton. Thanks for holding, CJT, and welcome.
Hi, Jeff. I'll keep it quick because we need to keep the blazing phone lines moving along. Number one, redistricting. Illinois is one of the worst examples. If you look at a map of Illinois, it looks like a giant red state. The land area, the number of counties that vote red, and they have it like 15-2 in favor of Democrats. It's ridiculous. Two, Massachusetts convention. I was a delegate. I tied up my whole Saturday. I spent 15 hours, including driving. I was happy that I did it. I'll admit the check-in process was very disorganized. The voting was very disorganized, but there was a lot of positivity among the delegates. The speeches were excellent. Every single one was excellent. John Deeden was unbelievable. I don't know if you saw it. He was unbelievable. No teleprompter. Minogue and Brensley, they're not exactly longtime Republicans, but I'll give them credit. They were extremely organized for months leading up to the convention. They weren't my choices, but I'll give them credit for organization.
Well, CJT, look, this is in Massachusetts now. This should be a slam dunk to beat Maura Healey. On issue after issue after issue, she is so far outside the mainstream. She has so shafted hardworking, tax-paying citizens, people in the middle and working class. And the way energy costs have exploded, heating bills, taxes. My property taxes now, $13,000 a year. They were $10,800, I believe, just a couple of years ago. I am paying $2,200 more just in property taxes over the last 2 years. And I could go on and on and on and on. And the overwhelming reason for this is because she has flooded our state with illegals. So if you can't win as a Republican against someone as unpopular as Healey, as despised as Healey, then you got a problem. And look, I like a lot of the candidates. I agree with you. I think they've got a good team. I think they've got a good message, but they got a problem. They have no infrastructure. And the infrastructure comes from the Mass GOP. And I've said it before, and I'll say it again. Until you get rid of Amy Carnevale as the chair of the Mass GOP, the Republicans are going to be in big trouble. And I fear they're going to blow an election that they should win. Not because of the candidates, but because of the Mass GOP and that woman, that fraud that leads them. She's incompetent. She's a loser. She's someone who never should have been in charge of the Mass GOP. And by the way, she's as I said many times, this woman is a lobbyist. And the people who put her in power said, oh, she's going to rake in the money. Oh, we're going to be swimming in money. She's a big fundraiser. The party's practically bankrupt. There's no money. What does this woman do all day? It is so bad that many seats are going to be uncontested. The Democrats are going to have no opposition, no opponent. Statewide races, no opponent. I'm sorry. This is not acceptable for a major party in an important state like Massachusetts. We should have a vigorous two-party system in which the Republicans raise a ton of cash and go after the Democrats day after day after day, and they show no quarter, and provide the voters with a real, viable alternative agenda. You don't have that with the Mass GOP. Certainly not with her at the head of the Mass GOP. So, look, we need new blood. I know what she's going to say. Oh, he just wants Jeff Deal back. No. I want a new person, new blood, fresh ideas, who's serious, committed, intelligent, and capable of taking this party and growing it to a majority party, or at least to be a competitive party. And she's not it. You know, we need a winner, Jeff. What has she won? And I'm telling you, really, this is not a bluff. If the Republicans lose to Maura Healey, whoever the candidate is, I'm going to support the candidate. Okay, so I don't care. Let the voters decide for the primary. I'm going to back the Republican candidate. I'm not Chris Doty. I'm not the Boston Herald. I'm not these others, these Chris Doty people who stab fellow Republicans in the back when you're facing a radical leftist. Okay, they do it for money. I'm not for sale. Okay, I'm not for sale. But the fact of the matter is, we now risk losing the election in November to Healey because of the utter incompetency and disorganization and, frankly, bankruptcy of the leadership of Carnivale. And if they should lose this election, which should be the most winnable election, if they should lose it against maybe the worst governor in the United States, and that's saying something, it is time to disband the Mass GOP because it's hopeless. I'm telling you, it's hopeless. There's no point to having a Mass Republican Party. If you can't beat Maura Healey with the way she's underwater, by the way, she's hated by independents. This is no popular governor. She's vulnerable. She's beatable. All you need is smart, effective, courageous, honest leadership. Serious leadership. And we'd win back the governor's office. And probably pick up seats elsewhere, but let that go. So if they can't deliver, because they installed this clown as the head of the Mass GOP, then they got nobody to blame but themselves. Then I'm sorry, you're unreformable. So, you know, in a way, I feel bad for Deaton. I feel bad for Mike Minogue. I feel bad for all these Republicans that are running because she's dragging them down. And, you know, anyway, the party deserves better. We, the voters, deserve better. Republicans deserve better. Conservatives deserve better. So I've called on her to resign. If she had any honor for the good of the party, for the good of the state, honestly, for the country, Healey is bad for the country. Never mind bad for the state. Do the right thing and resign. And bring in somebody new, young, fresh, who really wants the job and who's serious about doing the job and is capable of doing the job. Anyway, I mean, we'll see, but they lose in November. I'm calling for a third party because it's hopeless. If you can't beat Healy, forget it. I mean, really, honestly, forget it. Then you can't beat Mickey Mouse. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay. In the Florida House yesterday, they passed Ron DeSantis's redistricting map, which is going to add potentially 4 extra seats for the Republicans in Congress. And it passed overwhelmingly over Democrat opposition. If you want to see how unhinged the Democrats became, listen now. This is Democrat Florida State Representative Angie Dixon. She brings a bullhorn onto the State House floor to protest the vote, saying this is a violation of the Constitution. You see, when Democrats gerrymander, it's okay. When Republicans do it, the sky is falling. Roll cut 15, Mike.
Destroy our democracy. This is a violation of the Constitution. It is. It's a violation of the Constitution. I'm out of order, but y'all are doing illegal.
Representative Persons Mullica has waived closed. The question now recurs on final passage of HB 1D. The clerk will unlock the machine and the members will proceed to vote. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? The clerk will lock the machine and announce the vote.
83 yeas, 28 nays, Mr. Speaker.
Show the bill passes. Read the next bill.
None on the desk, Mr. Speaker.
I mean, it's like a circus. As they're wrapping up the vote, she's yelling and screaming. Really, she's like a wild woman. She's yelling and screaming with a bullhorn. This is a violation of the Constitution. This is a violation of the Constitution. I mean, they're losing their minds because they can see the midterm slipping away. Now, so before they actually voted on it, Ron DeSantis said, "Look, we're gonna follow Texas's lead. Once the Supreme Court is going to rule in our favor." The Louisiana decision, everybody knew how it was going to come down. It officially came down yesterday. And so DeSantis said, no, we're going to go ahead with the new redistricting map, and it's going to add potentially 4 extra seats to the Republicans in Congress. And Hakeem Jeffries came out and threatened Florida Republicans, and in particular DeSantis. So listen now to this. Roll cut 21, Mike.
Our message to Florida Republicans is F around and find out. If they go down the road of a DeSantis dummy-mander, the Florida Republicans are going to find themselves in the same situation as Texas Republicans, who are on the run right now. And under no circumstances are Texas Republicans picking up 5 seats. They'll be fortunate if they get 2 or 3. While in California, we are going to get all 5. The Republicans are dummy-mandering their way into the minority before a single vote is cast because they started this war, and we're going to finish it.
Okay. So, F around and find out. And he's threatening them. Now, notice the contradiction. He goes, well, in California, we were gerrymandering there, redistricting, and we got 5 extra seats. But you can't do it in Florida. You can't do it in Texas. So let me ask you something, Hakeem. Why can you do it in California? Or why can you do it in Massachusetts? Or why can you do it now in Virginia illegally, but let that go? But no, you can't, no, Florida can't do it. Texas can't do it. By the way, Texas is getting their 6 extra seats. Florida is going to get their 4 extra seats. You're F around and find out. Well, they F'd around, so what are you going to do? Tough guy, what are you going to do? I mean, this is what I mean. This is what the Democrats have now degenerated into. Like, he's like a mafia don making threats. By the way, idle threats, because they called his bluff. But listen now to Ron DeSantis basically laughing at Hakeem Jeffries. So when he said F around and find out, Ron DeSantis said, okay, sure. You know what? You want to come down and campaign against my redistricting? You want to come down and campaign against our new congressional map? You want to come down and campaign for Democrats on the policies that you people are advocating? Defund the police, reopen the borders, flood the country with more illegal aliens, go soft on crime, have more progressive district attorneys. If this is what you guys want to run on, go ahead. Go ahead. We will pay for you to come to Florida and campaign. Here's Governor Ron DeSantis directly responding to Hakeem F around and find out Jeffries. Roll cut 20, Mike.
This guy Jeffries popping off in Washington about Florida. He wants to be Speaker of the House, and he's kind of like, more liberal than Pelosi and all this other stuff from New York City. I just want to know, Florida can't do, we're going to go after Florida. Please be my guest. I will pay for you to come down to Florida and campaign. I'll put you up in the Florida governor's mansion. We'll take you fishing. We'll do all this stuff. There's nothing that could be better for Republicans in Florida than to see Hakeem Jeffries everywhere around this state. Voters will not like what they see. They will not want that type of ideology. And so the door is open. The invitation's out there. I don't think there'd be anything better for the Republican Party of Florida but to have Jeffries there.
I so agree with him. Oh, do I so agree with DeSantis. And then just to finish him off, here's how he describes Hakeem. Roll cut 20A, Mike.
Now, I kind of feel bad for the guy because he's as left as they come. He's always going left. And yet the far left hates him. They call him a dollar store Obama. They call him AIPAC Shakur, all these different derogatory names that they do. And so he's tried to ingratiate himself with there, but they're just not drinking the Kool-Aid.
So, no, he's right. Hakeem Jeffries was counting on becoming the next House Speaker, and then impeaching Trump, and impeaching everybody in his cabinet. And now, with all this redistricting going on, the gerrymandering, all these red states, he's looking at that dream of becoming House Speaker slowly but surely slip away. And now he's doing Mr. F around and find out. And it's not working out well for Hakeem Jeffries. Now, the only thing that I fear for Republicans going into the November midterms, you look at Hakeem Jeffries, the Democrats are so radically to the left. They've become so unhinged and deranged that in many ways they're Trump's secret weapon. DeSantis is right. The more you hear them talk about reopening the border, flooding our country with millions more of illegal aliens, raising taxes, spending even more money, driving up inflation even higher, having more crime, everything that they're campaigning on. Just look at Mamdani. By the way, he's in an emergency right now. His city is in an economic crisis. He's begging the state of New York to bail out New York City. So when they talk about government-run grocery stores, when they talk about Sharia law zones in the United States, when they talk about more rent control and more government control over every aspect of our lives. So the more they run on climate change and illegal immigration and open borders and higher spending and higher inflation, the more the American people are going to say, well, we may not be happy with Trump and the GOP, but man, oh man, we don't want these commies to come back to power. That's the one thing we don't want. But my fear is the Iran war and higher prices and higher gas prices. Trump's got to get the higher gas prices down. He's going to have to get prices overall down. And he's going to have to find a way to end the war in Iran, because the longer the war with Iran goes on, the higher gas prices are going to stay up, the higher inflation is going to stay up, and that may hurt him at the ballot box. And to me, that's the only way that the Democrats have any, a snowball's chance in hell, any chance at winning the November midterm elections. So my strong advice to the president is get this thing with Iran over with as decisively and quickly as possible. 617-266-6868 if you want to be part of the show. Okay, my friends, let me ask you. It is the Kuhner Country poll question of the day, sponsored by Mario's. Mario's Quality Roofing, Siding, and Windows. Now that the Supreme Court has limited the Voting Rights Act's requirement to create majority-minority districts, are you more optimistic about Republicans holding the House in 2026? To make it even simpler, now that the Supreme Court has ruled against racial gerrymandering, that's essentially what they did, against creating districts based on race, are you more optimistic about Republicans holding the House in 2026 and thereby blunting or stopping the blue wave? A, yes, you're more optimistic. B, no, you're just as pessimistic or, less optimistic. I want to hear from you. Are you more optimistic or less optimistic? Frankly, I'm much more optimistic. I think it's going to be now very difficult for Democrats to compete on an even playing field. Again, remember, they've been gerrymandering nonstop. They can do it. Republicans haven't been able to do it. Now the Republicans are able to do it. So it's now a level playing field. That's why the Democrats are crying. So I'm very optimistic, but that's me. I want to hear from you. You can vote on our webpage, wrko.com/Kuhner, wrko.com/Kuhner, KUHN is in national ER. You can also vote via X. And again, last night, active on X, my handle there, all one word, at the Kuhner Report, at the Kuhner Report, KUHNER. Okay. Amidst all of this, it's now very clear that what is going to be looming over the Trump presidency over the next couple of months, it now looks like maybe even throughout the entire summer, heading into the fall elections, is going to be the war in Iran. Yesterday, gas prices hit a record high in the United States that we have not seen in the last 4 years. It's a record in the last 4 years. Joey still has the record, but we were close. Yesterday, over $4, almost $4.50 a gallon. That's regular. Crude oil, $126 a barrel. It has not been this high, as I said, record since 2022, just after the Ukraine-Russia war began. And so with oil now at $126 a barrel, with gas, I put in $60 in my car, and I didn't even get 3/4 of a tank. $60, didn't even get me 3/4. What was it? Before this war began, I think it was $54, $55 filled up my car, full tank. $60 now, I don't even get to 3/4. So I'm paying now, what is it, 409, 410 regular unleaded, at least in my area. And it looks like it's just going to continue to go up and up and up. The Strait of Hormuz remains blocked. Our blockade, although working, to really take effect, blockades need time. Every time blockades have been imposed throughout history, they're very effective, but they take at least 6 to 9 months, even a year or two, to really strangle and cripple an economy. Trump obviously doesn't have 6 to 9 months. Now, he was asked yesterday, are you planning to extend the blockade? Meaning, are you looking to keep this thing going for another 2-3 months? And Trump's answer is yes. He now believes that he can starve the Iranian economy, cripple their oil exports, and essentially crash the Iranian economy and force the mullahs, as he put it, to cry uncle. The mullahs are now doing their own waiting game. They believe they can outweight Trump, let gas prices continue to go up, energy prices continue to go up, spark maybe a potential global recession, if not depression, by they continue to blockade the Strait of Hormuz, so no other oil or fertilizer or natural gas is able to get through from that region, and that this is going to financially and economically hurt the United States and thereby politically hurt Trump in November. And so now it's a war of attrition between Trump and the mullahs. So my question to you, do you support President Trump's blockade strategy? And does Trump have the time for his blockade to work? Will the American people be patient enough? Okay, so what we now are seeing is really a clash of wills between the hardliners in the IRGC, the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps, who really now are running Iran. Technically, it's still a theocracy, but really it's the IRGC that's now calling the shots. And, of course, President Trump. And both sides now are in a clash of wills. And they're seeing who can outlast and who can outweight the other. Now, what the reports are coming out of Iran, credible reports, that the blockade, along with the war, obviously, has cratered the Iranian economy. Millions now of Iranians have been pushed into unemployment, millions more into poverty. Inflation is out of control. Eggs, bread, fruits, vegetables, the basic necessities, you're looking at inflation rates of 300, 400, 500, 600%. People have lost jobs. They have no money. The regime, having stolen so much of their money and spent it also on military and missiles and drones, don't have enough to replace them with these lost jobs with proper unemployment benefits. So people now are starting to grow hungry. There is actual hunger now rearing its ugly head in Iran. And the Iranian regime is petrified that this growing economic hardship, this growing desperation and poverty among the Iranian people may lead them to go back to the streets in protests. And they're worried they're going to have to massacre even more of their own people. And this time, they won't be able to suppress it because of the growing hunger, starvation, and sheer economic desperation that is taking hold. So one of Trump's key strategies is he wants this blockade, if it doesn't force the mullahs to the table to sign a deal, and he says for him, it has to be a deal where they agree completely, unconditionally, to have no nuclear weapons and no nuclear weapons program whatsoever. He goes, for him, that is a non-negotiable point. He will not negotiate. That for him is the bottom line of all bottom lines. And if the mullahs won't come to the table, he believes you keep the pressure on, you keep the blockade as tight as you can, you keep squeezing and squeezing and squeezing, and eventually, by the millions, the Iranian people will take it to the streets. And this time, they will overthrow the mullahs. This is what the president is banking on. Now, on the other side, President Trump is being told by his advisors, if he can end this decisively and quickly, do it, because the support for the war, if you look at the opinion polls, he's underwater. Support is at 37%. Over, 60% of the American public are against the war. And the longer it goes on, Trump seems to be bleeding even more support for the war. Combine that with the fact that you're now going to have high gas prices, most likely, throughout the summer, heading into the fall. Trump campaigned on lowering gas prices. He campaigned on bringing down inflation. What this war has done, at least temporarily, it's made gas prices, again, high, prices across the board higher, inflation is now starting to surge again, and Democrats believe that politically it will kill Trump in the midterm elections. That they are just going to hammer him on high gas prices, high inflation, and the war. And so some people around Trump are saying, don't just do a blockade. You've got to also resume powerful airstrikes, hit the mullahs, hit more military targets, push and push and push until the mullahs are either toppled or they are, as Trump put it, cry uncle and sign a deal that ends the war. So, my question to you, and right now it's going to be the question, I believe, for the next 6 months. Will the blockade work? Do you support it? Because what's happened now is he's changed a policy. His policy was a lightning war. He couldn't win a lightning war. He's done tremendous damage. He's right. The Navy is finished. The Iranian Air Force has been blown up. Much of their military has been dismantled and degraded. But the mullahs are still standing. They still have a lot of that nuclear enriched material underground, and they've blocked the Strait of Hormuz, which is hurting us and, more importantly, the world. And so he hasn't been able to deliver a quick victory. He's now changed to a war of attrition. That's what a blockade is. Slow, grinding, economic pressure and punishment. And so my question to you, can Trump afford to keep this blockade going throughout May, June, July, August, even September, which means gas prices will stay high, even go higher. Inflation will go high, even higher. Can he afford this blockade, or will it cost him the midterms? 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, listen now to President Trump. He's asked by a reporter this very question. How long are you prepared to maintain the blockade? Listen to President Trump's response. Roll cut to Mike.
Are you prepared to maintain the blockade? Could that go several more months? Well, the blockade is genius, okay? The blockade has been 100% foolproof. It shows how good our Navy is, I can tell you that. Nobody's going to play games. We have the greatest military in the world, and I built much of it during my first term, and we've been building it since. And the greatest anywhere in the world, nobody even close. And you see that, whether it's Venezuela, and they have a good military in Venezuela, but it was over in one day. It was actually over in about 48 minutes.
So basically, he's saying, and he clarified later, he said, look, this can go on for months. He goes, they're the ones running out of time, not me. And in fact, he hints at this, saying their military is gone, and now their economy is in a death spiral. So they've got problems on two fronts. Militarily, they're defeated, and economically, everything is starting to crash and crater. Roll cut 2A, Mike.
Iran, the same thing. I mean, militarily, we've wiped them out. They have no military left. It's all, the Navy's at the bottom of the sea. The Air Force is never going to fly again. We've got an amazing military. Now they have to cry uncle. That's all they have to do. Just say, we give up. We give up. But their economy is really in trouble. So it's a dead economy.
So cry uncle. All you got to do is cry uncle. Just say we give up, and this thing is over. So my question to you is, do you believe the blockade will work? And does Trump have the time? Or will the American voter, the American public, get frustrated, become impatient, and then say, you know what? We don't want to pay more high prices. We don't want to pay more at the pump. We don't want this war to continue to go on. And they're going to vote the Democrats back in. And will this war cost Trump the midterms? Or is the blockade Trump's secret weapon to finally break the back of the Ayatollahs? 617-266-6868. Your calls next. Okay, lines are blazing. I promise I'm going to go to the calls. I just want to read to you the first opening lines of a piece in the London Daily Telegraph. It is one of Britain's premier newspapers. I read it every day, along with about 6 to 8 other newspapers for my show prep. And it's really one of the best. The reporting is superb. They have a correspondent who's of Iranian descent, so he knows the language, he speaks Farsi, based in Tehran and going around the country. And I just want to read to you the opening to show you the effects now that the war, along with this blockade, have created for the ordinary Iranian. This is the lead of the story. This is the opening sentence. Mohsen spent half of his daily salary on a carton of eggs. And he says this is a 38-year-old factory worker who lives in northern Iran, and that basically his daily salary, which is about maybe $8 a day, is all he can do is spend it on, say, eggs or milk or bread. I mean, literally, that's it. And he says he's going to decide to spend the other half buying enough international internet data to check messages and news for 24 hours. Because they don't believe their own government. They want to know what's really happening. And so they're going to spend some, whatever, it's very, for them now it's become expensive. They have to spend half of a day's wages just to be able to access some kind of, something on the internet, surreptitiously being wired into the country to find out what's really happening. And this is what he told the Telegraph. He's a father of 2 children. Obviously, he's got a wife. Quote, "We are facing hunger. people can't afford to buy anything. Shops are open, but few people walk in and out of them because they don't have money and they are losing their jobs. Now, I don't want to get into all of the details, but apparently now eggs have gone up 300% in the last couple of weeks. A 10-kilogram bag of rice has gone up nearly 400% in the last couple of weeks. Chicken has practically doubled in the last 2 weeks. And so according to this guy, Mohsen, and he says millions of Iranians have now been laid off, but at current wages, those that are still lucky to have a job, they have to work an entire day just to afford one chicken. No, I don't mean chicken with rice and bread and salad no, just the chicken. Just the chicken is one day's wages. And so the point that he's making, this worker, and they interviewed a lot of other people from around the country, is this is unsustainable. It's literally, he goes, you don't understand. We are starving. We're going hungry. We've used up all of our savings. Everything is becoming exorbitantly, outrageously expensive. And this hunger is going to drive us to economic despair, and it may force us to go to the streets. And the Iranian regime is well aware of this, and they are afraid of it. And then the question then is, what will Trump do? That's going to be the $64,000 question. Will he resume bombing to try to help push this, this massive protest to go against the regime and overthrow them? Is he going to come? Are they going to drop arms or weapons to help them? Or is he going to let the blockade continue and let these poor people continue to starve? And this is one of the side effects of the blockade. Yes, it's hurting the mullahs, but it's hurting the people even more. The mullahs are not going hungry. The IRGC, their bellies are full. And I think that's one of the reasons why Trump is a little bit surprised. He's like, well, why aren't they coming to the table? I mean, clearly their economy, as he put it, it's dead. It's collapsing. Soon they're going to have mass starvation and mass hunger if this goes on for another 2 to 3 weeks. Because the regime, A, doesn't care about the people, and B, it's not affecting them yet. If their bellies are still full, if they're still able to eat chickens and rice and bread and fruits and vegetables, then they're going to, they'll keep this going as long as they can. So in the end, Trump's strategy may be, I want the people to rise up, and I'm going to create the economic situation to be so dire and so devastating and so desperate, I'm almost going to force them to rise up. So we shall see. But he says he's determined to extend the blockade, and he's going to make it even tighter and even more rigorous, because some ships apparently have been getting through. About 35 ships have managed to penetrate the blockade. Trump says now he's going to make it even more ironclad, and he is going to really put the screws now into the Iranian economy. They won't be able to sell a drop of oil, and nothing will come in. No food will come in. No materials will come in. Nothing will come out. Nothing will come in. 617-266-6868. He is now planning to strangle the regime. Will it work, and do you support it? Tom in New Hampshire. Thanks for holding, Tom, and welcome.
Hi, Jeff. Great show.
Thank you, Tom.
Jeff, I called you a few weeks ago, and I told you that he has to get out of this meat grinder, and I explained why. The blockade won't work. The blockade is punishing the poor people. The military's in charge there. So they don't care about, I mean, like you said, their bellies are full. They'll wait this out years. We learned that from Afghanistan and over there, like the Taliban's in control now. They just wait you out. They don't care about their people. They'll just keep going and go. Think about this. Iran did a blockade in the Strait. We have a blockade of their blockade. So, as far as the people rising, we can't even get guns to the people. We gave guns to the Kurds or whoever they were, and they kept them. They didn't give them to the people. So this miscalculation by our government is awful. I mean, you have the President of the United States not listening to his CIA director before this all started, a few days before. He met with them, with Radcliffe. He didn't even invite Gabbard because she was against it. And then General Kane, Joint Chiefs of Staff, advised against it. And instead, the President of the United States listens to a foreign intelligence agency instead. So he has to get out of there now. And because it's only going to get worse. The blockade will make things worse for the people there. They'll be starving or whatever. And of course, the ratings here against the president will keep going down. So that'll enforce the military there to do what they're doing. So like I said, he's got to get out of that meat grinder.
Tom, let me ask you this. I think your points about the blockade hurting the people are dead on. I think you're absolutely dead on, and you're seeing that. And it kind of breaks my heart because many of them are with us. You know, most of these people that are complaining about going hungry and, you know, having to spend a day's wages on a carton of eggs or to buy one little chicken, they're not friends of the regime. You know, they're friends of us. And so that's, you know, it's kind of sad when you read about it, to be honest. But let me ask you about the home front here. Gas prices are high, probably going to go even a little higher, and it looks like they're not going to come down anytime in the near future. Do you fear politically that this is going to hurt Trump and the Republicans going into November?
Yeah, let me explain why. Because, Jeff, the prices, like gasoline, but not just that, the tariffs. Now, when you look at, they're reimbursing all the foreign importers, the biggest are Walmart, Lowe's, and all that. They're getting all their money back, tariff refunds, plus interest. So the American people, Walmart increased their prices by 15% and others. So the American people are paying that increased cost from the tariffs. The foreign importers, Walmart, are getting their money back, but the people in our country are still paying. So you get that end of it. But then, like you said, you have gasoline prices are going to stay high because it's going to take 6 months to maybe clean up that Strait of Hormuz with those mines and all that. And what's going to happen in come November is that people say they don't want to vote Democrat. They'll just stay home. They're not going to go and vote for Republicans out of disgust. So what you have is those people who would normally vote Republican, and of course 45% of the population now is independent. So now all those people, they just stay home instead of voting Democrat, is what I'm saying. So the Democrats have got the momentum now. So they're going to get out their vote. So it's going to be awful.
Interesting. Tom, thank you very much for that call. Tom says he's got to end the war. He's got to end the war because if he doesn't end the war quickly, it's going to politically kill him in November, and the Republicans in particular. Do you agree? 617-266-6868. Duncan in Haverhill. Thanks for holding, Duncan, and welcome.
Morning, Jeff. Thank you. I'm going to resonate what your prior caller just stated is, as I told the intake. I'm a first-time Trump voter, and I have to say I'm very disappointed. I would have that war ended or not even gotten into it because there's way too many things here at home that have issues. And I think even on the Democrat polls, the number 1 and 2 issues were the economy and the invasion. And both of them are not doing too good. He bent the knee on the invasion and no more mass deportations. We see the job market deteriorating, our dollar being devalued, and all Congress is doing, and it doesn't matter which one's in power, is devaluing the dollar and borrowing money, printing money with the Fed. It doesn't matter. So there's a lot of problems here at home that I think we should be concentrating on, which over the past few weeks, many of your callers have echoed. And I think Iran should be ended yesterday.
Duncan, do you think the blockade will break their financial or economic back? Trump believes it will. We just have to give it more time. But as he puts it, their economy is crashing. They're going to cry uncle. It's only a matter of time now. So let the, according to, just to, to give you Trump's point of view, let the economy, let the blockade sink in. Let it really put its teeth into the, into the side of Iran, and it'll bleed the mullahs and bleed the mullahs. And if they can't sell oil, no revenues coming in. Their people are getting restless because they're getting hungry. They fear being overthrown from within. And he says, just wait, be patient. In a couple of weeks, they'll be begging for a deal. What say you?
I really don't care about Iran anymore. I care about what's happening here. I care about my job. I care about my kid's job. I care, we already live in one of the most expensive states in the country. And it's not just Trump. I mean, I know he's probably taken bad advice from a bunch of neocons anyway, like your Lindsey Graham types. So I really don't care about Iran. I want everything concentrated back home, and I wanted him to deliver what he promised us. And it's almost a little bit of a betrayal. And, I may be just writing in my dog for the midterms.
Duncan, final question. Because Trump would counter, imagine if Iran had a nuclear weapon right now. Had I not done what I did, the mullahs were 7-10 days away from, as he put it, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 nuclear bombs. It would be a different world. It'd be a different Middle East. We would be under nuclear blackmail. Basically, I could not allow them to get the bomb. And I did what I had to do. Consequences be damned. What say you to that argument, Duncan? That basically the world is safer, you're safer because of what Trump and the United States did, along with Israel, in Iran. What say you?
Then I would say, or I would counter, is Israel's very capable of doing all that on their own. And, we don't need to be enriching the DoD defense industry here any more than we already are, especially when we look at, our national debt, et cetera, et cetera. I'm just not a pro-war guy in general. I think the military should be used when we're actually attacked on our own soil, which, in my opinion, we kind of are. We already have the invasion going on here now. But, let the other countries deal with that stuff.
Duncan, thank you very much for that call. 617-266-6868. Okay, agree, disagree. Ray in the great state of North Carolina. Thanks for holding, Ray, and welcome.
Hey, buddy, long time. Grew up in your backyard. You still owe me a couple of steaks. Anyway. Hey, I just got a couple of things. Number one, I voted for the guy 3 times. I honestly believe that he was the last hope for the country, but we didn't vote for him to save the world. Yesterday, Larry Kudlow on national TV said basically, suck it up, pay $4 or $5 a gallon for gas. If it's going to hurt, so be it. Larry Kudlow has deep pockets and more money than most Americans. It's killing people. They're going to get crushed. Mark these words. They might even, if there's enough Senate seats up for a vote, they might lose both chambers. They're going to get crushed. Half this country couldn't find Iran on a map if you circled it. Do you know that? More than half of this country does not care about that. And what he just said, the last man, hit it right on the head. If all of this is true, remember weapons of mass destruction, how come their neighbors don't worry about it? How come their neighbors don't invade people? Well, it shouldn't be us. We fought a couple of revolutions, a real one and then a small one. We had a civil war. A man smarter than me the other day on one of the programs said, you want a revolt there? You want a revolution? Fly in pallets of AR-15s with ammunition. Let them do it.
Ray, let me ask you this. The Supreme Court yesterday, just to tie the whole show together to your point, the redistricting that now the Democrats are being prohibited from doing anymore, that this is going to help Republicans potentially pick up dozen seats, 15 seats, 20 seats. They're in a panic. The Democrats think now they may have lost the midterms because of that Supreme Court decision. You're saying even with that Supreme Court decision yesterday, you think if this war continues and gas continues to be this high and prices, because it's not just gas, it's affecting everything. I mean, food is going up, energy is going up. I mean, just across the board, prices are going up. That with higher prices, higher gas, the economy being as it is, even with that Supreme Court ruling yesterday, the Republicans are still going to be shellacked in November, correct?
Tom's right. They're going to stay home. Our people will stay home. The Democrats, as you say all the time, you have to give them their kudos. They never quit. They never quit. They never stop, and they stick together. Our side, pacifists, stay home. What are you going to do? You know, and you talk about gas and the price of things, everything. How many people listening to this call right now get paid on a Friday? They can't walk in and say, I need $10, $20 more a week. They'll be laughed out. Larry Kudlow, he just moves the stock around and makes a couple of $100,000.
Well, you know, Ray, I mean, I know Larry, not as well now as before. We haven't been in contact in a couple of years, but he used to be a regular on this show many, many years ago. And, I mean, by the way, he's a multi-millionaire. You're completely right. He's very wealthy. But to show you how wealthy he is, he wanted to have dinner with me. And so I said, okay, let's have a steak. And you know what his answer to me was? He doesn't do steakhouses. He only goes to French restaurants. Like, in other words, you know, an expensive steakhouse, that's like too low class for Larry Kudlow. He has to go to fine dining French cuisine. If it's not escargot, Ray, Larry Kudlow doesn't want to eat. So Ray, that's how much money he's got. You know, a delicious a T-bone at a great steakhouse, that's like fast food for Larry Kudlow. So, you know, so yeah, Ray, he's got money to burn, you know, to your point. Ray, thank you very, very much for that call. I really appreciate it. I was like, whoa. You know, because I said, hey, you know, I go, Larry, there's some great steakhouses in Boston. You know, we could have a nice steak. He goes, I don't do steak. I go, well, what do you mean you don't do steak? And he's like, nah. You know, it's like it's beneath him. It's like, I don't know what. Like I'm taking him to Chili's or Applebee's or McDonald's or something. You know? It's like, no, we got to go to a French restaurant. I'm like, hey, whoa, Larry, I don't make what you make. All right, Larry? Just so that you know. Anyways. Well, that's true. I make enough to go to Atlantis for the kids and Grace. That's Mike in my ear. But they cleaned out my bank account. Okay, many of you emailing the Kuhner man, texting the Kuhner man. You're making an excellent point, which is, hey, Jeff, under Biden, we had $5 a gallon gas. $5 a gallon. And there was no war. Well, there was a war. It was Biden's war on us. And, you know, and what many of you are saying is those very same arsonists that gave us the disastrous Biden presidency, those loony lefties, we're going to give them the keys to the kingdom again? if we stay home in November, that's who's going to take over the country. So it's not like your gas prices are going to go down. Hell, if anything, they're going to go up. They want them up at $5, $6, $7 a gallon because that's how they think they're fighting climate change. And, you know, look, one of Trump's great achievements, he's had obviously many very successful achievements, but I think one of his greatest was closing the border. He stopped the invasion. You know, whatever you think about his deportations and, you know, whether he should be more aggressive or more proactive or whatever. But, you know, he did shut the border down. He's closed the border. They're going to reopen that border. They're going to defund ICE. They're going to defund Border Patrol. You're going to see this country, millions are going to pour in. So you're going to get Biden all over again. To me, that's why you don't stay home. I mean, even if you're disillusioned with Trump, just for this, you know, for the sake of argument, Jeff, I'm not happy with him. He broke some of his promises, or he didn't fulfill his promises, or, you know, whatever. The economy's not, you know, he didn't fix the problems with the economy. You know, gas is too high. Inflation is too high. We have a cost of living crisis. I didn't vote for this. I'm worried about my job. I'm worried about my children, you know, having an economic future. I get it. But you stay home, you're handing the country over to the communists. Seriously, to the Marxists. And the ones that got us into this hole are going to be back to dig the hole even deeper. And, you know, you're complaining about $4. Look, I'm complaining about $4 a gallon. Please, I don't like to pay. Who likes to pay $4 a gallon? Especially when, you know, to be fair to Trump, before the war, it was like, what is it, 280? 279? 260? Gas was low and getting lower and lower before the war. So we know, you know, he brought it down. He can bring it down again. But you get the Democrats, forget $4 a gallon. It's going to be $5, $6 a gallon. How do we know this? Because that's what they did under Biden. And they want to repeat the exact same policies. 616. So all I'm just saying is, I'm just saying a very simple point. Don't stay home in November. I'm begging you. Even if you have to hold your nose and to vote for the Republicans, vote. Because you don't want AOC running this country. And that's what we're going to get. 617-266-6868. Agree, disagree. Marlene in Waltham. Thanks for holding, Marlene, and welcome.
Hi, Jeff. I have 2 points, and
Yes.
I'd like to know your opinion. One, bombard the living daylights out of those controlling the strait. And number 2 is together with neighbors, UK, Qatar, whoever it is, drop food and water for the Iranian people. I remember Obama dropped blankets or something. And how about dropping food and water for the Iranian people? That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Marlene. Well, I think they're probably going to do something like that if this thing continues to get worse with the food crisis and the hunger now that's starting to develop in Iran. They're going to have no choice. As for bombing the Strait of Hormuz, Trump is being urged by people around him to do that. And I don't know if you saw the picture he sent out on his Truth Social yesterday, but it was him wearing sunglasses. It's actually a very funny picture. It's him wearing sunglasses in a suit, but with like an assault rifle. And there's like a mountain behind him. I think it's Iran, or one of the mountains in Iran. And there are explosions behind him. And on the top, it just says, "No more Mr. Nice Guy." And it's one of these AI generated photos. And, you know, and that picture attended a message where he said, look, you're not going to get Mr. Nice Guy anymore. We're trying to negotiate. You obviously don't want to negotiate. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to tighten and extend the blockade. We are going to stop every single drop of oil from being exported. We are going to keep maximum economic pressure on the regime. And yes, my patience is coming to an end. We're going to blow the hell out of every ship, drone mine layer that we see from the Iranians in the Strait of Hormuz. In other words, we're going to start to restart we're going to relaunch some of the airstrikes, the missile strikes. We're going to target every defense battery that we can along the coast of the Strait of Hormuz. And we are going to finish off what's left of their navy. And I am going to put my boot right on your economic neck. So basically, Trump is saying, I'm done playing around. Sign the damn deal, or I escalate. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, Trump now says he's going to tighten and extend the blockade, and he's now telling the Iranians, I'm going to do this for the whole summer if need be, and I don't care how high the price of gas goes. I'm not blinking, you're blinking. Will the blockade work? And will it force the mullahs to the table? And most importantly, will the American people have the patience? Okay, this is from Rob on Messenger, and he's in northern Arizona. And I didn't know it was that expensive in Arizona. So here's what he basically is, almost like our correspondent, Kuhner Country's correspondent out there in northern Arizona. And he says, Jeff, diesel, which is the fuel we all depend upon, is $6.59 a gallon here in northern Arizona. Wow. Gas is $5 a gallon. I assume that's regular unleaded. Diesel drives all consumer costs. Well, yeah, that's truckers, right? The trucks, they use diesel, and everything gets transported, or mostly everything gets transported on these trucks. So the higher diesel is, the higher the shipping costs. Higher shipping costs, everything becomes more expensive. And then he followed that up. This is wow. So, look, now, to be fair, I haven't been to a Denny's in years, but I remember, like maybe, 5 years ago or 6 years ago was the last time I've been at a Denny's. But, they're known for, I like their breakfasts, 2 eggs, bacon, toast, $5, $6, maybe $7. Well, this is what Rob says. I'm at what used to be a packed Denny's in Kingman, Arizona. There's me and one other customer. $17.99. Let's not quibble over a cent. $18 for one of their standard breakfasts. It's looking mighty grim. Ay, ay, ay. $18 for essentially 2 eggs, some toast and a little bit of bacon at Denny's? And, part of the appeal of the franchise is, you get a decent breakfast at a, nice value for your money. If it's $18 for a standard breakfast, we're screwed. No, I mean, really, who can live like this? How can the middle working class survive? Now I know why it's empty. Rob says it used to be packed. Now it's just me and another customer. Who can afford this? 617-266-6868. Dennis, now I have Mansfield as a city or a town. I know that's Mansfield. I know that's just Mike, who doesn't want to put in the N. So I'm going to assume is what? Well, yeah, you just changed it now, Mike. No wonder. Yeah, now it says Mansfield. Sure, you just changed it. All right, so Dennis in Mansfield. I'm going to go out on a limb. Dennis, thanks for holding and welcome.
You got it right, Jeff. Long time. I haven't talked to you in a couple of years, but great show.
Thank you. Thank you, Dennis.
This new word that it came out, a lot of people today, what do they call these people now? Panicans, So I think that's the people are panicked about a lot of things, and I don't like the war. my question, one of my question is, my wife said to me this morning, go down and get some gas, because yesterday I think I paid $3.75 a gallon down at Costco, and she said, well, then I go down to down to wherever the gas is the cheapest in Mansfield. She says, it's now $4.15, and that's a bargain, she said. I said, no way, overnight? Did it go up that much? Like, overnight, just happened today. So I said, well, so be it. And my question is, with all these high prices of the gas, with the gas and everything, and I think, isn't there a way that, like I remember when Biden used the strategic oil reserve, and we get so much oil in this country. Why can't they just dump a bunch of it, drop the prices down, right? Or, another thing they could probably do is he's taking in all these maybe billions of dollars in tariff money. Why doesn't he just dump a bunch of money into the gas market and the food? Why can't they do something like that just to offset it to keep the prices down? What's your take on that? Why can't they do that?
Dennis, he's already, to be fair to Trump, first of all, we have lower gas prices than, say, countries in Europe and certainly countries in Asia. They're paying 5, 6, some European countries now, Asian countries, my bad. European countries are paying $5-6 a gallon. Some Asian countries now are paying the equivalent of $7, $8 a gallon. So, they're getting killed. hammered. Europe, it's getting so bad. We had some friends who were thinking of flying to Europe. And the airlines now, the European airlines are telling them, don't book anything for July or August because we don't think we're going to have any jet fuel left if this thing with the Strait of Hormuz continues. Because it's becoming so prohibitively expensive that they're like, we're not going to charge you $3,000-$4,000 a ticket to fly. Just forget it. There's no point. So what Trump has done is he's tapped into the Strategic Petroleum Reserve already to keep the prices, a little bit lower than the rest of the world. Now, we have all the oil and gas that we need. People think it's Saudi Arabia or Russia. No. We, the United States, thanks to Trump, we are the number one oil and natural gas producer in the world. And we make more than enough. We sell it on the international market. So we have more than enough for ourselves, and we even have enough left over to sell. The problem is, how do I say this? People don't just buy every day like you and I do, right? What's a good price? I'll wait today, maybe wait till tomorrow. For a lot of places, they buy on a 3, 6, 9 month, a year, 2-year contract. So a lot of our gas and oil, we've already committed to selling, say, to the Europeans or to the Chinese or to India or to Brazil, to other places around the world. So, people say, well, Jeff, I don't understand. We have all the oil we need, the gas that we need. Let's just keep it for us. I go, yeah, in theory, I agree with you. But they're making deals and selling on the international market. So, to some degree, the price of oil and gas here is tied to the world market. So if prices go up internationally, they go up here. Probably not as much, but they go up. And that's why ultimately Trump is working to make us completely self-efficient, that we have enough gas to take care of ourselves and then to sell what's left over to the rest of the world. But look, we didn't plan for this war. Had we planned for the war, in other words, let's say a year away or 2 years away, we could have put a lot of oil and gas in reserve and we could have kept the price. It would have, it would have minimized the shock, the price shocks. So it would have minimized the blow to consumers. But it just happened. The war happened quickly. And there wasn't, much time to plan. Now, the good part is after this is over, Europe now is saying we just want to buy from the United States. They don't want to rely anymore on Saudi Arabia or Kuwait or the United Arab Emirates. Many Asian countries, Japan, South Korea, that get a lot of their gas from, say, Qatar or Kuwait, they're now saying we just want to buy from the United States. So there's going to be a lot of ships coming to the United States to buy our oil. So we're going to end up producing even more oil and drilling for even more oil. So we're going to become, in a sense, like a global Saudi Arabia. So A, the oil and gas business is going to boom, a lot of jobs. And B, down the road, it should eventually lead to much lower gas prices. But that's mid to long term. And that's why his aides, look, it's not that they're unpatriotic. It's not they don't want him to win the war in Iran. But when Susie Wiles is yelling in the White House, gas prices, gas prices, gas prices, what she's saying is, look at the polls. You can criticize the American people. The fact is, they're angry about high gas prices. And they expected Trump to fix it and bring it lower. And she's saying, to everybody, if we don't get the gas prices lower, the Democrats may win. And then we're really up a creek without a paddle. So that's why the pressure is on Trump to try to end this war and end it quickly and decisively. Kim in New Hampshire. Thanks for holding, Kim, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff.
Hi, Kim.
The price of gas, my daughter, she's always wanted one of those older square body trucks. Do you know what that means? It's like they're like from the 80s, maybe the end of the 70s.
Yes.
Yeah. She's always wanted one. And so now she got one. It needed a few things, but my son's a mobile mechanic, so they, did the few things that needed for it to be good for the road. And then she goes and fills up the tank on it, and it's $100 to fill the tank because it's got like a 20-something gallon tank. $100 for a tank of gas.
And it's going to go fast. I mean, Kim, I'm not trying to pile on, but it's a gas guzzler. So it's not just that it's $100 to tank up. It's, 2, 3 days, 4 days. You got to, you got to go and tank it up again. And I think, look, this is the quicksand that Trump is in. This is exactly the price of gas that we had under Biden. In fact, under Biden, it was more expensive. It was $1 more. It was over $5 a gallon under Biden. And by the way, the Democrats never complained. There was not an affordability crisis then. In fact, they told us he was doing an incredible job. That he was a genius. That he was I'm not kidding. They said he was the greatest president since FDR. So that was the propaganda and the bull that they were spinning then. So it was $1 more a gallon. Trump ran on lowering gas prices. And the country said, amen, we need relief. He ran on lowering food prices, groceries, energy costs, inflation, all of it caused by Biden and the Democrats. And I understand he was getting it under control. It was coming down. But now, because of the war, it's gone back up again. And initially, that's why he thought, well, this is going to be a 4-week war. That's how they sold him the war. They said to him, this is going to be a lightning war. This is going to be done in 4 weeks. So don't worry. Prices will come back down. You'll be in great shape by the summer, heading into the fall. You're going to look, you're going to be gold in the midterms. Now, with the Strait of Hormuz being blocked, and now our blockade, and the price of gas going up internationally, which has an effect on us, he's looking at higher gas prices at a minimum throughout the summer. And if the Democrats are smart, and they're not, but if they're smart, all they do is say, your gas prices any lower? Your energy prices any lower? Your inflation, your cost of living any lower? How's your pocketbook doing? And they're going to say Trump didn't fix it. Now, most Americans have a short-term memory, and they're not going to remember or think, oh, how was it like under Biden and the Democrats? Like, who are they to speak on this? They have no authority or credibility. It doesn't matter. Most Americans have, not this audience, but most Americans have the attention span of maybe 4 weeks. Anything beyond 4 weeks, they forget. So they're going to say, well, okay, let me vote for the Democrats because they say they'll bring prices down. And so that's going to leave Trump, I believe, politically vulnerable. Now, he knows this. I'm not saying anything he doesn't know. That's why you see these bursts of frustration from him. Like, come on, you've lost the war. Like, what are you people doing over there in Iran? The leadership. You've been beaten. You have nothing left. What are you hanging on for? And what, you want your people to starve now? Like, are you normal? So, come on, just surrender. We just don't want you to have nuclear weapons. And you can become back into the international community. And we'll even lift the sanctions. So he thinks this is such an obvious deal to make. He can't believe how obstinate and stubborn and frankly fanatical they are. So now he's going for the blockade. In other words, now I'm going to starve you into submission, which, by the way, that's what defeated Germany in World War I. It was a massive blockade by the British. We helped once we got into the war, and they were basically starved into signing terms of surrender. Blockades are very effective. The only thing is they take time. And time is the one thing Trump doesn't have. Final word to you, Kim.
So we shut our heat off because we still got a half a tank of oil in the tank. So we've shut our heat off because God knows. I mean, hopefully this is over quick, but who knows what the price of heating oil is going to be like when we get into the next season. So yeah, we've shut our heat off.
Very smart.
Like throwing an extra blanket on.
Very smart. Well, if this is going on still in the fall and into the winter, you're going to see very high heating bills. I mean, because look, if things continue, I don't want to get into the weeds of this, but it's going to start damaging oil fields. And once you start damaging oil fields, they can't produce the same amount of oil. So that means there's going to be even a greater shortage, which means prices are going to go up even more. So that's why if the war continues, say another 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, you're actually going to see gas in this country go to $5, maybe even $6 a gallon. And you head into winter on $5-6 a gallon gas. We're all going to feel it in the pocketbook.